Discovery, Roger. Go for deploy.
Alrighty, guys. Welcome back to Adventure Fit Radio. Bringing it to you live. And when I say live, I mean the opposite of live. From a nice day outside, actually. It's at 22 degrees, I'd say. A little bit of wind. And nice and close to the beach, so it's beautiful.
Standard gag.
Yeah, standard gag. I've got about 7 gags.
Weekly gag.
Weekly gag. So today we spoke to a natural bodybuilder named Paul Revelia. Oh, yeah, but aren't like all bodybuilders just taking drugs? Yeah, look, I knew you guys would say that. In actual fact, no, that is not true. And Paul is completely ripped, shredded, built like a brick shit house and El Natural. So if you want to know how he does it, hear the show. Today, guys, we are sponsored by True Pride, which is a wealth creation service that allows you to financially get your life back and get ahead. Head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF to get the initial fee of $297 completely waived when you book a call via their website. We are also sponsored to you. I always say that. Doesn't make any fucking sense. We are sponsored by Carve. Guys, head to www.carve.ph/ADVF to get 10 free hours of virtual assistance working on any project or small business assignment, things you have to do. It really, really does help, guys. We are sponsored to you. Oh, my God. What is wrong with me? We are sponsored by Adventure Fit Travel, guys. Lots of cool trips coming up. Some really good stuff coming up. I can't think of any off the top of my head, Bilbo.
We got lots of trips coming up, guys. Our blog is back up and running. We got 40 bloggers working, writing for us, getting out some awesome content. We had coffee. Is it really good for you? We just had top 10 things to do in Iceland. We had a bunch of other cool blogs coming through. So check out www.adventuretravel.com. Also, if you're interested in going on one of our trips, then that's a great decision. Use the code word radio and you'll get 10% off any and all travels. So, here's the show. Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Adventure Fit Radio. We are here with Paul Revel today. Before we throw over to Paul, as usual, we are going to start off with Tommy's tribute, which may not rhyme and may not make any sense.
Hey, nice to have you on the show, Paul. For the purpose of the song, your last name is going to be today Revelia. So we'll just make sure we know what we're doing there. All right,
that works.
Yeah, that's good. Don't Stop Believing by Tom Ahern. Just a small town man with the sensational tans. He took the midnight train to Fort Lauderdale, and then he went to Gold's Gym just to get a little more slim. And now he's a pro on the bodybuilding circuit. Mr. Paul Revelia, I want to see some fucking memorabilia. Can you tell me how to get rid of my muffin top? Yeah, 'cause I will never stop believing. I'll keep on training and heaving. You place first in the heavyweight class. Welcome. I think I was a little.
Now, where can I get the iTunes download for that? You gotta link me.
Yeah, look, I've got 1 million subscribers. If you just look up Big Papa 69, it should come up. So
that will be the new intro for all my YouTube videos.
That's great. That'd be great.
Paul, hey, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Oh, I'm excited. After you guys gave me the invite, I looked you guys up and did a bunch of research, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to what we're going to talk about.
Awesome, man. Was that a word there, Tommy, or did you say, oh?
I just kind of went,
Alrighty, so Paul, why don't you tell us about what started you on your bodybuilding, what started you in bodybuilding and the fitness path?
Ultimately, I think it was the fact that I was very, very thin at a young age, and I was like a tall, lanky, skinny, but I was always involved in athletics. I was a big baseball, basketball player growing up, and I think I was just around a lot of people that seemed to have a lot more muscle than me, and so I was always taken with that. And I remember seeing, pictures of like muscle magazines with Arnold, and I think deep down it was always something I was passionate about, even if I didn't recognize that early on. And it just it's always drawn me in, like the idea of kind of changing the composition of your body and owning that part of your life has always just been very interesting to me.
Yeah, right. So did you have particular heroes growing up when you were kind of getting into this whole scene? Is there people that you looked at and you're like, wow, that's where I want to get myself to at some point?
Yeah, I think there was a couple phases of that. Early on when I first bought the first muscle magazines, and I saw pictures of like Arnold Schwarzenegger and like Lee Haney and Rich Gaspari and all the people from the early 80s, I was enthralled with that. And then, something weird happened after I'd been lifting for a couple of years and I didn't look like that. I learned about something called steroids, and I realized, okay, so maybe there's something going on here because I'm not looking the way they look. And then the second part of that was when I found out about natural bodybuilding through the bodybuilding.com message boards in like the mid 2000s. And I found out about people like Lane Norton, and he had a video series. And immediately when I saw these guys, the natural bodybuilding pros, I was like, that's it. That's my thing. I am going to do this.
Right. So can you see this may sound like an obvious question, but I actually don't know. Can you see a clear distinction between those who are taking gear in professional bodybuilding competitions as opposed to those that aren't? Because, I mean, we've all seen photos of people that are just doing too much, but is there a distinction between the competitive dudes?
It's a tricky question because when you get to the top, to like the Olympia level, those guys are clearly taking because they're 5'6" and, 250 pounds with no body fat. But when you're just talking about the average gym goer, there are some genetically elite people that can walk around with a lot of muscle, very lean. So I don't tend to pass judgment on any of them because I love both sides of the sport. I just have chosen to never do steroids. Now that I know more about the sport, I understand that I don't have the genetics to look like Arnold and Phil Heath and these guys. Even if I took all the steroids in the world, there comes a lot more to play into it than that. So I just stay on the outside. I enjoy it for what it is. And, I don't really worry about what someone else is doing.
Interesting. So what was it the health reasons that you didn't want to get into the drugs? Was it the fact that you thought that you could compete better if you were in the clean drug tested area of the sport? What was it that, because, a lot of people just dive right in and just straight in the get taken by the allure of steroids. What was it that made you not want to go that direction?
Yeah, I've actually got a really good story for that. I was in high school at the time, and I had started working out like in a weightlifting class setting at school every day. And there was another kid in the class, and he had gotten much stronger than me, much quicker, and I just assumed he was just a better athlete than me because I had played sports all my life. And you come to understand there are better people. They're better athletes. And then a few weeks had gone by, a few months or whatever, and I overheard someone say, "Oh, I heard about so-and-so. He's taking steroids." And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then they immediately passed off everything he'd done by, oh, it's because of steroids. It wasn't the fact that he had been in the gym 6 days a week putting in work. It was automatically just associated with a shortcut or cheating. And I think that always gave me a perspective of, I don't want to be known as, he's got a great physique, but he does steroids.
Yeah, for sure. There's so much of that in all walks of life. Even people that the general populace or their friends or so-called friends on the periphery, they don't have any clue that they're on steroids. But they look big and jacked, and they train hard, and they do well. So people are like, he's probably on the roids.
Probably doing gear.
You hear that all the time. So that's a really interesting point that you come to. And
it's just an easy way for people to justify the fact they're doing shit all in comparison.
That's right.
The people that do gear. Look, I'm not saying like you should go out and do gear, but like they still have to work bloody hard.
Yeah, like Paul just said, you're still getting in the gym. The guys that are good are still good because of their work ethic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He worked just as hard as I did. There was no difference. It was literally just passed off, and You know, and then at a certain point, you know, when I was playing sports, I had hoped to play professional sports. I went to college and played baseball on scholarship. So at that point, it then is considered cheating. You know, I played for the NCAA where, you know, even some supplements were banned and definitely steroids. And then once you get into your 20s, now it's illegal in the United States. It's, you know, so there was just compounding variables that just never really interested me. And I was always able to make good progress. You know, obviously I don't look like Arnold, but I was always, as long as I was consistent with my training and diet, I was able to make progress. So I never felt like hopeless.
Yeah, that's right. What do you think about the myself and Tommy are more I was a weightlifter, haven't trained in a while actually.
You're still
Tommy,
a weightlifter, mate. You're on hiatus.
Yeah. Tommy's CrossFit kind of weightlifting. So we're not really right in the bodybuilding realm, but do you think there's too much steroids? I know it's illegal and so on and so forth and whatever, but that's still rampant. Everybody's on steroids. Do you think there's too much of it going on? And do you think it's like, what are the risks out there for people? Is it something that you really, really kind of tell people not to do, or what's your overall consensus with steroids in general?
I mean, as far as in competitive physique sports, when people ask me about them, I ask them what their goals are. Depends what your goals are. Like if your goal is to be Mr. Olympia, you're going to have to learn how to do them. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I typically side on most people that approach me as for coaching and things like that, they know my stance. They know that I'm natural. Most of the top coaches that are involved in that, they're also their drug dealer or their drug, expert, where they're telling them how to take there's so many different types of steroids now. It's not just like taking a pill. Yeah. You got to shots, you got to know when to take them, how much of this and that. And I don't know much of any of that. So I think, I don't really get put in a situation where people are asking my opinion on it, but it's a case by case basis. I'm not morally against it, unless you're lying about it and competing against people that are taking the test that aren't on drugs. That's the only time I have it. So.
Yeah. that was going to be one of my questions, which I'm sure, do you feel like, I think it's really good in bodybuilding where you have a non-tested side of it. In powerlifting, you have the same thing. Really, a lot of sports should maybe look at going that way. But do you feel like you're competing still against cheats, against people that are on steroids that they just want to win?
Not when I compete in my drug-tested organizations. These are guys that I see, year after year, and they're not making significant changes. They're literally the same weight year after year. They look better, they get leaner, they do little things, but they're not putting on 10 or 5 or 10 kilos of muscle in a year after they've been training for a decade or more. It's just, and there are, like I said, playing sports growing up, you realize there's just genetically elite people out there. Some of them can jump higher. Some people are 7'6", and some people have just the ability to put on muscle quickly. So I understand that there's such a wide variance in the human condition that I'm not like too concerned if someone can put muscle on faster than me, because there's people that I can put muscle on faster than.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was always a kid that sucked at everything. I was like, it's good. Hey, Paul, so moving away from steroids, what do you think? We've had a few sort of fitnessy people on the show, and I always get the feeling that the biggest factors they say that have helped with their progress have just been the fundamentals of sleeping right and getting into a good diet. If that is you, what's some of the stuff that you put into place to sort of help you on that way?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think early on in my lifting career, like after I got out of college and I had, a job and free time and I wasn't playing baseball around the clock, I made a lot of progress. And then once that progress stopped, it was more about my lifestyle at the time, because I was more interested in going out with my friends, chasing girls, and so if you train hard and eat right for 5 days, but party for 2, you're kind of treading water there. You're not going to make a lot of progress. I would say in the last 10 years where I've kind of, found myself, settled down, I'm married now, literally the gym is a part of my life. Eating is a part of my life. My life is set up more for consistency. And so it's mostly just been about, finding that place. Competing in bodybuilding is not something I could have done in my early 20s. My priorities were in a different place. For better or worse, I wouldn't change anything, but it wasn't going to happen.
So let me think. Probably priorities in your 20s would be girls number 1, women number 2, chicks number 3,
and boys number 4.
and then bodybuilding somewhere down the rung of like 6 or 7.
17.
Yeah. Well, if you're anything like me and probably Tommy as well, I'm sure we're all the same. So, cool. So when did you actually step foot on the platform in the natural arena, Paul?
In 2009.
Okay.
So I was 33 years old before I did or 32 before I did my first bodybuilding show.
Yeah, awesome. And then, so what have your best achievements and your what's given you the most joy so far out of your personal career?
It would definitely be setting the goal and achieving the goal of winning the Natural Pro card, where I literally focused on it for 2 years and set the goal and hired a coach at the time, and it's just it's really fulfilling and it's really scary when you put all your time and effort, all your free time, and I gave up a lot of nights with my friends and a lot of hobbies that I was doing, and I put a lot of time and effort into it. And being on stage, you have to win your class, and then I was in the overall, and you have to win the overall. And both the guys that I beat in my class in the overall were both great bodybuilders, and so at no point in that entire time was anything certain, And so to hear my name and number called as the winner, and it's just something I'll probably never forget. It was pretty fortunate. It was in Fort Lauderdale. A lot of my close friends were there, so awesome. I've got pictures and videos, and it's just a great memory.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best. So what does the day-to-day look like when you're, let's say, when you're training, and then we'll go into as well when you're actually in proper comp prep, which I mean, however long it is that you start changing it up right before the comp. So what's a normal bodybuilder's day look like? How many hours are you in the gym? You're doing double days, or how does it work for you?
So during the time when I'm not in the peaking process for a bodybuilding show, I definitely go to the gym just once a day, probably 6 days a week. At this point in my life, my day is set up so I can go to the gym whenever I want. So I typically go between the hours of like 1 and 5 p.m., like kind of off peak hours, so I can kind of just have my own time, typically 2.5 hours max. And that includes, some time to tinker around, talk to some friends. I take Sundays off completely. That's just the family day. So the rest of the week, I'm just having fun, going to the gym. And then during prep, that's when you might get into the 2-a-days if I want to split up some cardio or, spend some time extra at the gym. I'll split it up and go back.
And do you focus on a lot of bodybuilders out there, I feel, do sort of isolation work, like a really good, strong 45 minutes in the gym, just focusing on biceps, and then that, in the afternoon they do triceps, or what does your split or your workout routine typically look like when you're not peaking for competition?
So that type of training you're talking about, I definitely did that. I spent probably a couple years doing that, but what you learn is that to build more muscle over time, the most important variable is training volume, meaning sets times reps times weight. So if I'm going in the gym 1 day a week just for biceps, and then going back the next day just for legs, and the next day just for shoulders, you'll hit your limit for training volume in a week very quickly, because you can only train the body part once a week. So what I've graduated to over time, as I've learned not to be afraid of overtraining, is I'll actually train multiple body parts in the same day, so like chest and back, and I'll do that twice a week, so that I'm able to, even though I'm training 6 days a week, I'm hitting everything twice a week, and that has really allowed me to make more progress.
Right. And okay, so what about when you're coming into competition? Does your nutrition change? You said you had to go from you didn't have to, but you would put in a little more kind of cardio stuff. Is that just to help you slim down, help you shed some body fat? What changes from the 2 hour session to like when you're really ramping it up to get that physique ready to go?
Well, the goal throughout contest prep is always going to be to keep as much muscle as you can, because once you enter a caloric deficit state, adding lean body mass pretty much stops, especially for an experienced lifter. So I try to keep training pretty consistent. The cardio begins adding early on at a very low rate, maybe 1 or 2 days a week for 10 or 15 minutes for steady state, maybe a session of like high intensity cardio once a week. Mm-hmm. The goal is to just be very slow and methodical and consistently losing 1 pound, maybe 2 pounds a week. Roughly 1% of your body weight is the max that I like to lose. That's been shown in studies to be the best way to lose weight and keep your performance up, especially for like performance athletes. So the big thing is taking the long, slow approach. As a natural athlete without taking steroids, it's very important that you don't try to rush the process and force the body to change, allow it to adapt over time. So by the end of prep, it can be pretty full on. I can be doing 5 or 6 days of cardio along with my training. And then, of course, you got to practice posing. And, it's pretty all consuming at the very end there. The last, last month or two, it's really consuming.
So this is another thing that I really know absolutely zero
Talking about posing?
What's that?
Are you going to talk about posing?
Yeah. Like
you know a fair bit. I see you in the bathroom every now and then.
Yeah, I've got really good calves.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to I don't really know how to pose them, but I like to
nice
just get up on the tippy toes and give them a nice squeeze, and they're pretty voluptuous.
They are nice calves.
Yeah, I've been working on them.
You should go on that calf comp.
Yeah. Like, what do you do when you're doing like trying to get your posing down pat? Is it just you in the mirror at home, and how much time and effort? Or do you have I know a friend of mine who he's actually pretty interesting guy. He did a bit of CrossFit competitively, and then he went into some weightlifting, and he's also done some strongman and powerlifting, and also bodybuilding. Does everything. It's crazy, and he puts it all on his social media. It's actually quite interesting to follow. I know he had a posing coach. So do you have a coach, or like how does it work on the back end logistically behind closed doors?
Yeah, I consider myself a very highly competitive person. So when you put me in a position where I'm going to be competing against others, I'm going to do everything in my power within the rules to do well and win. And so my first show in 2008, I actually asked around a bunch of people, and I found a local guy who could help me with my posing, because if you've ever attended a bodybuilding show, you would know there's a vast difference between posing correctly and looking like you just walked down on stage and you're lost.
That'd be bad.
So I did not want that to happen. So yeah, absolutely. There's, the purpose of posing and practicing your posing is that you're being judged by a panel of judges that are on the floor, on the ground below you, basically looking up at you. So you have to manage your poses in such a way so that it highlights your strengths and, kind of hides your weaknesses. And so that's what you practice with. And the cool thing about technology being what it is, there's a lot of videos. So I could actually watch the videos of people posing, and I would listen to them and practice the poses, record it, watch it back, and go, I don't like what I did there. I like what I did there. And I would just kind of tinker the last few weeks before the show. And now I'm actually, I coach people, and I'm a contest prep coach, so I actually will pose with them as well. So it's kind of a skill. Once you learn it, like riding a bike, you can take it with you, and you can always work on it. But it's very difficult at first, but it sticks with you. You practice so much at it.
Right. So let me get this right. So when you walk out onto the stage, is there a set of poses that you have to go through in the criteria, or do you go out and you choose your own poses?
No, there's an actual set of criteria that each organization uses, and they're mostly very similar. I can tell you all of them if you want, but they're basically just the poses that they go through in order, and that's just so they can compare everyone on equal terms. Because if you have, if you're flexing your big sexy calves, and I'm over here flexing my biceps, that's not really a fair comparison, right? So
flexing the hamal.
Yeah, the hun.
Yeah, you got big grapefruits in there, right?
So Paul, how do you get? So if Bill and I, for example, are doing the same pose, we're flexing our chest, for example, except he's got a much bigger chest than me. How do I work on trying to highlight my strengths and hide my weaknesses if we're doing the same thing?
Well, so for example, there's a pose called side chest where you actually rotate the upper half of your body towards the judges, and you're showing off your chest. But each pose is a complete body pose. So you might have really big quads and hamstrings where you would actually be kind of downplaying the upper body and upplaying the lower body so that they're drawn more to that look. Because just because the pose is called side chest, every pose is about the overall physique from head to toe. There's no pose that it's just about looking at a single body part.
So the judges, because obviously I'm sure they'd be able to recognise the name of each pose. If you did a side chest, they wouldn't necessarily be looking at the chest?
They are, but it's more the pose. It's more how does this person look in this pose? So it's just the overall feel and look that you get from looking at that person in that pose.
Cool. I think I know the side chest.
The side chest.
So would that be standing side on, then clasping your hands together, bringing the chest to the front? Back leg looks in my mind. Back leg looks straightish, and the front leg is kind of
turned a bit.
Turned a bit up on the toe.
There you go.
Because you get a bit of
I've got a new career. Come to me for the physique.
So it's like that, and then you turn your calf to like.
Well, Paul can't see, but that's what I reckon.
That's what kind of like that.
No, that's. It
I'll have
looks
to get a
more
video.
Like, more like this.
We'll just change we'll change your business to Adventure Fit Travel Posing.
Yeah. Adventure Fit Posing. We're not even a company. We'll just post it. That's cool.
Yeah, cool. So every pose you'll go out there, and then do you have to, when you're doing your posing, do you have to work on in any particular way? I don't know if it's possible to really do you have to work on, okay, this part of my lat or my rhomboids or my, do you have to think, okay, this is my strength, I want to flex the shit out of this muscle? Do you have to work on even maybe trying to activate littler muscles that you don't normally use to give you a slight advantage? Does any of that come into play?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has a structure, like a small waist, wide shoulder. Everyone has a structural advantage in some way, shape, or form. So you're definitely going to learn to highlight that. And a lot of the poses aren't actually flex. A lot of the poses are actually where you're just displaying the muscle. For instance, the back, when you're doing a lat spread, you're not flexing the back. You're actually opening your scapula and allowing the back to be spread open so that it looks wider. So There's a lot of understanding how to move the body into these positions. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so
sounds complex. It's not as bad as it sounds. With a good coach, it's not that difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say about learning Chinese. Sounds hard though.
Yeah. Okay. So when did you decide that you wanted to kind of get into coaching other people as well, Paul?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic because I had zero interest in that for much of my life. I never really wanted to be a coach for anybody for anything. I've always kind of enjoyed just letting people do their own thing. And, and so what happened was, if you guys are familiar with Lane Norton, he was my coach.
Somewhat, yeah.
And when I started working with Lane, I think it was kind of around the early on online coaching. There was maybe 2 or 3 people that were online coaching at all. That was it. And when I started working with him, it's kind of when that trend took off. And Lane had such a big following and was doing such big things that he was getting tons and tons of client requests. And when Lane moved to Tampa, I don't know if you know this, but he moved to Tampa after we had been working together and friends. And I was living in Orlando at the time. So we started spending quite a bit of time together. Every couple of weeks we'd get together, we would travel. And he was always in my ear about being a coach because he liked the questions I asked. He used to always tell me, you ask the right questions, you're interested, you have a broad knowledge base. I think you'd be a good coach. And at the time, I loved my career. I worked in IT. I was a computer geek. I loved my job. It was always changing. It was always challenging. I felt like I was fairly rewarded. I had a lot of perks. And so what finally broke the camel's back for me was my first ever client had come to Lane and said, Lane, I hired a coach. I paid him a bunch of money, more than $1,000. And when I paid him, he sent me a plan that I could tell wasn't for me. It was cookie cutter, which if you guys aren't familiar with the coaching industry, a lot of people will just get a plan and send it to everybody. The same thing. No. And he recognized that. and he sent an email and said, I don't like this coaching that I purchased from you. This isn't what I was looking for. Could we talk about maybe doing something? And the guy called him, and he was 17, and he got his mother on the phone and said, your son's a loser. He's never going to do anything. You're not getting your money back, and you're fired.
Jesus.
And so, yeah. So Lane at the time was so busy, he could not take a pro bono case at that time. And he said, listen, Paul, I know you don't want to be a coach, but there's this kid. He's local. He's had this terrible story. Would you just coach him? And there's no harm, no foul. If he does good, great. If not, he's going to be grateful. And I thought, that's fine. I'll do that. So I basically just employed a lot of the things that I had learned from working with Lane. And I worked with him. We got him on stage. He won his first show, which was like a teen show. And then he won a novice class at his next show. And at the second show, I was actually there with my then girlfriend, now wife, and his mother came up to me after the show, gave me a big hug, and just, was so grateful and was like thanking me and telling me how happy she was that I had helped her son, and he was very happy. And they gave me a nice card, and I remember that good feeling, like, wow, this is nice. Like this is something I enjoy. Well, when I got home and opened the card, there was $350 cash in it.
Oh, then it was like, this just got a whole lot nicer.
Yeah.
Well, my wife said, why don't you take that money and start a business? So I literally the next day bought a name, and that was 2010, and that's it. That was it. Once you change your mindset and start doing things, people start looking at you differently. And this is something I learned very early on. So, people treat you the way you perceive yourself. And so once I started perceiving myself as a coach and learning and put myself in a position to be a good coach, it just started to take off to the point where I could no longer justify going to work because I was doing more online coaching. This took a few years.
Alrighty, guys, just a quick little chat about our sponsors to break up the riveting conversation we were having with Mr. Paul. We're going to, what should we start with? We'll do True Pride.
Yeah, True Pride. Yeah, True Pride's good. I like True Pride.
True Pride, yeah. All right, guys, so True Pride. What a True Pride? Well, that's a good question. I'm gonna tell you in a second. True Pride is a wealth creation service. True Pride is a wealth creation service, guys. It helps you to take control back in your life, get ahead financially, and in case you haven't listened to the show yet, you will not know this, but for many of us that have listened to the show, you will know that I've been using True Pride. Bill's been using True Pride, and it's helped us leaps and bounds with little things. A lot of people tell me why you actually went down the road of buying or going with True Pride when the whole thing about saving money is just a habitual thing. And while I do agree with it, True Pride and the actual service they provide, didn't mean that to rhyme, it actually allows you to highlight those little habits. So for me, it was always just buying food. I used to buy a lot of food out on top of my weekly shopping. And I sort of had an idea about it, but the MoneySoft software that you get with True Pride and the online calls for someone to keep you accountable each week not only helps you identify that, but allows you to put some practices into place that actually will go against it and save money. And I've saved over $180 a week now, which is really, really good. So if you want to do the same, guys, head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF. You will get $297, so pretty much $300, completely waived when you book a call via their website. We are also sponsored to you by Carve. Carve is a VA assistance service from the Philippines, which allows you to pretty much outsource all the shitty nitty-gritty work, all the projects, the assignments that you find yourself doing when you're building a new company from scratch, building a new business, doing a project at school, whatever it is. They can help you out with that. Bill and I use it religiously. Outsourcing your homework.
Doing a project at school? Fuck that. Get Carve to do it.
Yeah, that's class. What if they got it all wrong, actually? Yeah, so Bill and I use it religiously for the radio. It's fantastic. Bill uses it for travel as well. Bill also has a pretty shitty haircut and has some average feet as well. So if you guys want to do the same, outsource your work, focus on the big picture stuff, head to www.carve.ph/ADVF. That means you will get 10 free hours when you head to the /ADVF part as well. Here's the show.
Yeah, for sure. It's amazing the feeling you get. I definitely get as much. Well, I don't coach anymore. I'm just too busy with Adventure Fit and the podcast. It's a real shame because it was one of my biggest passions in life. I was definitely more passionate about coaching than I was as an athlete, although I was pretty competitive, have a fair competitive streak as an athlete. But I just think it's like, I don't know whether it's just the amount of happiness that's out there in the world when you, for example, I had a buddy who was a really kind of not the greatest weightlifter, like didn't move very well, had heaps of mobility issues. And he came to me and he just really wanted to work in his weightlifting. And we started training once a week. I was writing all his programming. He was sending me videos throughout the week of all the rest of his stuff. Anyway, we did about 6 months before he actually stepped foot onto a platform, and he went out on the platform and made 6 out of 6 lifts. This is the first person I ever coached in a weightlifting comp. Made 6 out of 6 lifts. It was the best competing day of his life. And what I mean is, like, if that was you and you have a coach as well, but if it's just you or something that you've achieved, that's one person that's really ecstatic, whereas if you coach somebody else, there's 2 people that are really ecstatic and can join and buzz off each other and make it even more an incredible feeling. That's how I feel about it anyway. I think it's so addictive. Coaching in any form, just helping people is just the best.
100% agree. Yeah, it's definitely, I'm to the point now where I travel to a lot of competitions for my clients, and I definitely get way more nervous for them than I ever did for myself. Yeah,
100%. I never even coached my little brother, but I used to watch him play football, Australian rules football, and 100%, I didn't get nervous before games. Whenever Jack would play, I'd be on the edge of my seat. I'd have like butterflies in my stomach. It's funny when you care about people, like what it will do to you. So how do you go about getting better? This is something that I like to always kind of ask our guests that we have that might be coaches. How do you go about bettering yourself as a coach? And I mean, maybe just not like I want to be able to coach a pose better. I want to be able to learn something about my nutrition. It is kind of about that, but what about like dealing with people? Do you have any ways that you're always trying to better yourself in the way of just dealing with people in general?
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. And another great thing about Lane is that he's grown such a fan base and popularity, and we're such close friends, that he actually started doing a camp where he would bring in experts from different areas. And one of the people he brought in was a psychologist who deals with people in the fitness industry and talks about eating disorders and the addiction of some people for training. So being around like seminars and camps, and that's really where my evolution as a coach has gone, is that I now look to attend and be a part of things where I'm going to add to my knowledge base, be around people that have a skill set that I don't have, and understand more from them. I've actually worked with, I had a client who had some eating disorder issues who was herself a mental therapist. So I worked with her. I've done videos with her. It's all about getting in the head and understanding the people that you're working with. And I'm very in tune with that, because I believe the psychology of an athlete is just as important as the physical attributes of the person. So if you're not in tune with an athlete in that manner, you're not going to get the most out of them. They're not going to be happy, and they're not going to get a good result, and that's not going to reflect goodly on as well on you.
Well, just on that, Paul, what are some of the mental techniques you do to keep you motivated and stop you from... Because I feel that overtraining is very much a mental thing, as opposed to... I mean, obviously, it can be a physical thing with breakdown and that sort of stuff, but mentally, you've just got to stay on point for so long in all of our sports, weightlifting and bodybuilding and that sort of thing. So what, if any, do you have some mental techniques you can shed some light on? A lot of our sort of guests meditate and do things like that.
I've done a little bit of meditating, but it's been mostly to calm my mind to go to sleep. I don't really use it during the day. Yep. I am a big believer in being very self-aware and understanding what you enjoy and what your breaking points are. So if there comes a time where I need to take a day off from the gym and stay home and play guitar or spend time with my family or take a trip, I'm all about ensuring that I am in a happy place. over the course of my career, exactly what it is that makes me tick and when I'm about to hit a breaking point, and paying attention to those has suited me very well. But I understand not everyone has the same self-awareness. And so I think having experience as a coach and working with so many people that have such different, outlooks and approaches has really helped me as well, because I can offer advice and give feedback. And when I feel like someone needs a push, I can give them a push. And when someone needs a day off, I feel like I can give them the day off. And that all just comes down to caring about who you're working with and being an actual coach and not just a dictator.
So that's another good point there with recognize that, because I totally agree that your training and all that sort of stuff should be based on how you're feeling on the day. Do you, when you're coaching an athlete, do you work off percentages, or I'm not really sure how bodybuilding works. I know for us, for weightlifters, a lot of the time people will try to go for percentages, hitting 4x3 80% or whatever. Is that something that you do? And if an athlete's not feeling good, is the program more based on how he's feeling, and is it like kind of tailored every time you step into the gym?
Yeah. So in the last 4 or 5 years or so, powerlifting has become very popular. The IPF, the drug-free raw powerlifting organization, that's the worldwide organization. The USAPL is the US version, has grown exponentially over the last few years. And, I've competed in powerlifting and I've been a part of it. And again, attending seminars where I've worked with like people like Dr. Mike Zordos on programming and had discussions with people with like a lot more knowledge than myself, I've come to be able to develop programs where you're actually using auto-regulation techniques. Auto-regulation meaning the day that you go in, based on how you're feeling, you'll do one of 3 different workouts. So on a day where you don't feel as good, you might train at a lower intensity, but get a little more reps. Whereas a day you feel good, where the bar is moving fast, you'll choose that to be your higher intensity training day so that you get more out of it. It's kind of an evolution in training. I don't think beginners can understand auto-regulation. It's more intermediate to advanced people. So my programming definitely varies from beginner to advanced.
And see, that sort of stuff is like taking away the old mentality of you always need a deload week, and it's like 3 weeks on, 1 week off. Because let's be honest, I mean, I'm sure we've all been there where you'll hit a deload week and you'll by day 2 or day 3 you feel great again. And like I always feel that if the body's feeling really good, you should go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, tapering and deloading, there's a lot of new information on that as well. And, again, being around so many smart people, I've just got such great influences in my life and my training programs. It's allowed me to be a better coach. And I actually feel good about the services I provide because of that. So you're absolutely correct.
So your programs, I just want to get this clear. So you write your programs and you have a variance in each day. So do you have like, if you're feeling like you've got 5 exercises or something, if you're feeling, if this is a really low day or you're feeling a bit low, then instead of doing this, it actually says that they're on the program and they can just pick and choose to some extent on how their body's going?
I'll say this, very few of the people that I work with are at that level that I do that. Most of the programs I write are based on, if you're going to squat Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you're going to take a % of your 1 rep max and you're going to train. And then on the last day, you're going to do what's called an AMRAP, or as many reps as possible. And that's going to judge what we do the following week. And then if I notice performance suffering, that's when we might take a taper week, a little deload, and then do some testing and then keep going. So very few people. I do have a few programs that are written in such a way, like when you warm up, what you'll do is you'll warm up to an estimated max. And then based on that estimated max for that, the conservative max for that day, you'll train based on that number. But that's pretty advanced.
Yeah, for sure. Gotcha.
Because I kind of get the feeling like if you wrote 3 programs and you weren't there, everyone would always just take the easy option. I'll just do 20 minutes of bicep curls, and that's been a good leg day.
So, hey, Paul, so do you write nutritional programming as well for your clients?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Cool. And what is what does a week's nutrition look like day to day for a bodybuilder, and then how does it change going into comp again?
Yeah, so nutrition for a bodybuilder, pretty typically you're going to be familiar with like a higher protein approach. So I'm going to try to do the kilos because I'm a pounds guy. You know, we're stuck in the United States here. But basically, you're going to get a gram of protein. I guess it's going to be 2 grams per kilo. Mm-hmm. You know, it's going to be on the higher side for protein. Carbohydrates are really, really, really valuable for bodybuilders. You know, they're the best macronutrient for performance and for recovery. They allow muscle to fill out. You know, they're the most easiest used form of energy for performance athletes. And I kind of believe in a really balanced approach. You know, protein's high. I want to keep carbs as high as possible, but they are the most variable macronutrient. And then I want to keep fats in a good range, at least usually 20% of your total daily calories, just for the benefits of digestion, for the benefits of hormone support, for, you know, joint support, all that stuff. So it's the biggest variable through contest prep. You know, your protein and fat is going to stay pretty consistent unless you're taking in a lot of both. And the carbohydrates are going to decrease throughout contest prep. That's where we're going to get the most change. And it's really very variable. If I would have to know more details, but, you know, someone like myself, I can give myself an example. I probably start off contest prep at like 260 protein, 400 grams of carbs, and maybe 80 grams of fat. And by the end, I'm probably 250 grams of protein, 130 grams of carbs, and maybe 50 grams of fat per day. So it's, you know,
that's a big.
Yeah.
Right. It takes away a lot of carbs, hey, by the end of it.
Yeah, but I also use what's called refeeds or diet breaks. So I'll take 1 or 2 days a week and I'll bump my carbs back up to 300 or 400 for the day for some hormone support, some muscle glycogen to refill, just to give you the mental break and feel like you're eating again. You know, these are some of the techniques that you use as a coach to make fat loss sustainable for a long period of time.
Mm.
I saw. I was exhibiting at the Australian. Yeah, I was an exhibitor at the Australian Health and Fitness Expo, and I saw a guy come up to me, and he was ready to go up on stage in the figure or bodybuilding. I can't really remember, but he was had his spray tan on, and he was in his jocks, and he had like a towel around him, and he was yelling at his girlfriend, "Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?" And I looked over, I'm like, what's this doing? What's this doing? Hey, where? And then his girlfriend came running over with a slice of cake.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, what the fuck are you doing, man? And he tried to explain to me. So I thought it was like he was off the stage, and he's like, he just needed some carbs because he'd been... But this was before he got on the stage. Now, does this make any sense to you, Paul? And if so, can you explain to me what was going on?
My best guess, if he was about to go on stage and he was trying to eat some cake, is basically just trying to get some last-minute glycogen, which is
right.
You know, sugars and carbs.
Yeah.
And then cake is going to be mostly sugary, so it's going to digest pretty quick. People experiment with different foods. But, yeah, that's the basic idea, is just to get into the bloodstream and get your muscles filled out so that when you go to pump up, you can actually get that, you know, that vascular, like mid-workout feeling is what you want on stage.
Yeah,
so
that's what he said. That's what he said, basically, without me understanding it back then. But to hear it again, that's basically what he said. So is that something that you do to try and get that? Do you have anything that you would eat on stage, like a little sugar pouch or anything like that? Is that one of your techniques?
Or a live bat?
Yeah, so actually, I do the same thing. I have people bring me cake, and I yell at them. No. The human digestive system actually requires that food be in your stomach before it goes to the muscles for a little bit of time. So the cake that he ate probably didn't hit his system for a few hours, if not the next day. So I typically am going to have somebody carbing up for a few days before a show, because during the process of contest prep, you're so depleted for so long that you need carbohydrates to refill muscle glycogen for the day of the show. So if you're waiting till an hour before stage, you're not going to get a lot of benefit out of that. However, yes, we do use some things backstage. You know, common things are like rice cakes or honey or anything that's just basically a pure form of carbohydrate that's going to digest very quickly. And some people, you know, they like to have like a glass of wine. Some people like that. There's all kinds of different things based on sodium, based on carbohydrates that different people and coaches use. But, yeah, I just try to keep it simple and use the same foods that we've used throughout contest prep. And basically, I've learned throughout working with someone for months, what they respond well to, so that the week of the show where we're peaking, I've actually already put everything in place. So last second, there should be no need for anything that drastic. It should just be out, just continuing what we've been doing.
Yeah, fair enough.
So what are your favorite cheat meals then, Paul, if you've got any?
It's funny. Every time you diet down to really low body fat, I feel like something different is in my taste bud. The first year it was like I was really into like ground beef and eggs when I dieted, and the last time it was peanut butter. I was obsessed with anything with peanut butter. I'm Italian by nature, so I love pasta. And whenever I start dieting down, you just start to miss the things that you can't eat. And heavy pastas are just hard to have because they're so calorie dense. So that's something I constantly miss, and salty foods as well.
Oh yeah,
jeez, not my idea of a cheat meal. That sounds like that's my good diet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I'm on. So Paul, let's before we start to wrap up, we'll go to 6 from 6. A few questions from me and Tommy. Just wanted to ask, what's next on the plate for you? Where do you see yourself for the next 5-10 years? What's coming up?
Well, so this 2017 is going to be a fantastic year. I've got trips planned. I'm definitely going to be going to the Arnold in Columbus, Ohio. I'm definitely going to go to the Olympia. I'm going to be attending a lot more fitness events. And this February, I'm taking my wife and my son, who's not even 3 yet. We're going to go skiing. So that'll be their first trip to see the snow.
Cool. And
I'm going to go to Colorado. I'm planning a summer trip for Australia. That'll be my 6th time.
Get down. We'll have some cake.
Yeah.
What's the occasion?
We come and do seminars and travel around a bit. And one of my best friends lives in Melbourne, so I love to get to spend some time with him and his family. He played basketball in the States, so we've been in touch for years.
Awesome.
So yeah, and my business is interestingly, it's growing. I want to say my popularity is growing. I mean, you guys found me, so I just want to continue to put out information. I've got a few projects in the works, like websites and things that I'm working on, so that I can reach out more people. Because as a coach, you can't really expand beyond the amount of people that you can work with, right? So you're kind of limited in your reach. But I'm working on some projects that are going to allow me to reach more people. Obviously, it won't be on the same level, like very personal, but I want to put out information that I feel is relevant. It's going to help people safely reach their goals, understand things on a different level, because there's just so much bad information out there that I want to continue to give back. And so that's it. I'm just about moving forward and continuing to push the envelope with, me, myself, my personal brand, but then also my business and, getting involved in as much stuff as I can that I believe in.
Sounds good. Sounds awesome. All right. So before we get you out of it, Paul, we want to go to 6 from 6. So that's 3 questions from me, 3 questions from Tommy. My first question is, what is your favorite destination on the planet? Your dream spot that you like to travel to, or that you've been in the past?
Yeah, so you guys are going to get a kick out of this. It's definitely 100% Melbourne, Australia.
Oh,
Hey,
get around
Zing.
us.
We're
now that is not me, just buttering up to you guys. I've actually, been there 5 times. Love the city. Love the food culture. Just the people are so vibrant. There's just a cool mix between, the downtown life and like the suburb life all along the water there. My buddy Brett owns a bunch of restaurants in Melbourne, so his food, the cuisine. I love the Greek and Asian fusion along with the Aussie style, and fashion's cool there. It's just a really cool city.
Yeah,
I would move there if I had to live anywhere else. Yeah,
absolutely, good stuff. Go us. And then my second question is your dream destination, somewhere that you haven't been that's on top of your bucket list.
I think number 1 would probably be Bali. Just because, I think locations that are far away seem more exotic to me. Like maybe to you guys, I don't know, maybe you can correct me, but like things like that are close to me, like Mexico, Cancun, things in the Caribbean, like the Dominican Republic and Bahamas, all these things are so close to us, the Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, Bali, when I see pictures of it and I think about going there, it just seems like such a cool vibe and a destination and just unplugged from the world, beautiful setting with the beaches and the huts over the water. I think that would be my my bucket list currently.
Yeah, great. Bali's awesome. I've been there a lazy 8 times. But it's like Mexico for you guys. I mean, there's people that go down to Mexico every winter and get some sun. You know, it's our first port of call. So yeah, for us, it doesn't have that same appeal.
Yeah,
I think that's right. That's right.
Good. I'm glad I was right there.
Yeah. No, you would love it. My last question is: any books that you have read that have really positively influenced you, whether they be just a really good biography or a good novel or a good self-help or educational book, can be anything that you would recommend.
The Torah, the Quran, Bible.
Yeah, I love reading biographies. I love the Arnold Schwarzenegger biography. His story just always has just inspired me, from his background to where he's gotten. And so I definitely would say the Arnold Schwarzenegger biography came out a few years ago, and it's really good. Other than that, I don't read a lot, but I love to read, like when I travel, like Dan Brown novels. I don't know if you're familiar with, like Angels and Demons, and Da Vinci Code. I've read every Dan Brown novel. That's my, like, once I open the first page, I literally can't put it down till I've finished it.
Awesome.
Sounds like a bit of a health risk there.
All right, cool. That's my 3. Tommy, you're up.
Hey, Paul, what's some stuff you like to do when you have some downtime or spare time, apart from spending time with the family? That's a cop-out, my friend.
All right, so if we take the family out of it, my biggest thrills, my hobbies include guitar playing, although I don't have iTunes hit list like you guys. I played sports in college, and I had a lot of downtime, and there was like 3 or 4 guys on my hall that played guitar. So I have a bit of a guitar collection. I have 4 or 5 here in my office. So
beautiful.
I'll pick up the guitar and play for 30 minutes at a time here and there. Put on some music that I like to play along to. I still love sports. If I can get out and play 18 holes of golf once or twice a year, I do that. Go to the driving range. I love basketball. I can shoot some baskets any time of the day. My TV watching has diminished drastically. I used to be a big lover of watching sports, but as the business and as the brand grows, I really have very minimal time for watching sports. Turns out that's not such a bad thing.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I'd say guitar and, shooting a few hoops. Those are probably my 2 favorites.
Beautiful, man. Now, biggest role model growing up. We sort of touched on it a little bit earlier, but do you have a current inspiration or a big role model that you had as a kid?
I've already said his name. It would probably be Arnold, because if I told you my dad, that would be a cop-out, right?
Yeah.
So, the Arnold Schwarzenegger, the whole story, just to go from a poor kid in a village in Austria to basically, bodybuilding champion of the world, governor of the 17th largest economy in the world, highest grossing movie actor of all time. It's just a really cool, and a lot of people, they don't really get into the heart of Arnold, how driven he is and how.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Most people don't realize this, but Arnold Schwarzenegger was a millionaire before he ever did a movie, because he started a brick paving company in California. So what a lot of people don't know is that Arnold Schwarzenegger, before he was a movie star and while he was still competing as a bodybuilder and he lived in Venice, California, he was already a millionaire because he started a brick company and a mail order supplement company. So he was basically, had really high aspirations for his life. But a lot of people get caught up because at one point, he had the greatest physique in the world. So I think, it's about, he has a lot of famous quotes, and one of the best ones is just about, like, he's never going to be satisfied with being normal or accept that. He always wants to push, and, that's what life is all about. And I agree with him there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I do like that stuff about, always pushing and all that sort of stuff. But I think happiness, can sort of be taken away sometimes when you're always in that frame of mind of just have to go. I mean, I feel like happiness is growth and all that sort of stuff. But do you get the feeling like these athletes at the very end of their at the very high level are kind of in a negative mind frame because they're just so competitive? This is just a short off-topic question.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look back with regret, when they realize what they gave up and what they sacrificed. But as long as you understand, that something is short term and you can kind of, that's one thing about having some longevity in a sport, and you can actually start to appreciate things on a different level. Especially, early on when I first competed in bodybuilding, it was like life or death, all or nothing. And as I've gotten, the last couple of years, I've really started to actually enjoy the process and understand that it's a short-term thing and I should just enjoy it.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, final question, my friend. If you could invite 3 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would they be and why would they be there? And obviously your family can be there as well. So three external people.
3 people. Well, because I've never met him, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Absolutely would be on my list. Number 2 would be The Rock.
Good one.
He's just charismatic and he's a badass. He actually used to train at the same gym as me in Fort Lauderdale before he was like the icon that he is now. He was always really nice and pleasant to talk to. And the third, get your tissues ready because I had to think about this one for a little bit. But my mom passed away at a really young age. I was in my early 20s, and she had ovarian cancer. And so she hasn't got to see this version of me. So I just think it would be really cool to like catch up with her. I never really appreciated the great mom that she was because I was caught up in my own life in my early 20s, and it would just be great to have her just get to talk to her and explain how grateful I am, and then also let her see the kind of person I've become. I think she would be very happy.
Sure,
absolutely.
Yeah. No, we'll look up. No doubt she's looking down with a smile. Hey, Paul, that was awesome, man.
I think she'd like to meet The Rock too. To be honest.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And she definitely loved to meet The Rock. I'd love to meet The Rock. Hey, Paul. Finally, mate, anything you want to plug? Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, social media, it's pretty straightforward. Everything is under Paul Revelia, Paulrevelia. So cool. At Paul Revelia for Instagram, YouTube/Paul Revelia. Those are my 2 biggest platforms that I really like to post on consistently. I am using the Snapchat, which is also at Paul Revelia. And my website that I run my business through is prophysique.com. So that's where, if you want to reach out to me for coaching or anything like that. And then the sponsor that I'm most closely associated with right now is Core Nutritionals. They actually have a distributor in Australia too. So, Massive Joe's is a big supplement distributor in Australia, and they deliver the Core Nutritionals products that sponsor me. The Doug Miller is the best natural bodybuilder in the world, hands down, and it's his products that he's developed over the last 10 years, and they're great things. And even though I'm sponsored by them, I would use the products whether or not, and just being associated with that brand is something I'm really proud of.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, thanks a lot for coming on the show, Paul.
Absolutely, guys. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to await your invite to the next crazy adventure so we can do some bungee jumping in Bali or whatever.
Yeah, sick. Cool. 100%. And we'll have to catch up when you're over in Melbourne. When is that? When are you coming over?
Well, the date's not set. Last year it was March, April. It was early April. We were there for 3 weeks. We did Melbourne, Perth, and Sydney. This next year we haven't set up the schedule yet, so I'm not 100% sure. So it's either going to be in April or it's going to be in June, July. So winter.
April's the Arnolds are on in April. That's probably a good time for you.
We'll have a protein shake.
Alrighty.
Yes, sir. I'll definitely email you guys so we can sit down and have a bite. I'll invite you to one of my buddies' restaurants, and we'll
awesome.
We'll have a long black, mate.
Yeah. Sounds good, mate.
Thanks a lot, Paul, and that's a wrap. Alrighty, guys. If you like the show today and you like the cut of our jib, then make sure you subscribe. And if you are already a subscriber, then please leave us a rating and review. We've been hammering on about it of late, and we do nearly every show. Mm-hmm. But it just really helps us grow and get better, and that way we can give you a better product. And that means we can get our YouTube channel going, better video content. We can get more exclusive interviews and behind the scenes stuff. We can also get ourselves a travel budget, so we can go to people and have in-person interviews more often. Because it's just so much better of a product. We love interviewing all these stars over Skype and all these interesting people over Skype, but it's just not the same quality as if you got them in person. So we want to bring you the best possible product available, and we need your help to do that, because without our listeners, without subscriptions and ratings and reviews, then none of it happens. So that's how much it actually means to us. So make sure you go and do that. If you want anything from the show notes, head to www.adventurefittravel.com/radio. It's all in there. And head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF. Get your joining fee waived of $297. Also head to Carve, www.carve.ph/ADVF. Get 10 hours free on any project. And head to adventurefittravel.com. Use the code word radio and get 10% off any travel and trips on there. All the good stuff. See you next week.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.